Hi, well, welcome to day 3 of this very special week where we've had the opportunity to talk to my pastor, Pastor Stephen Furtick, and I have to give a special shout out to Pastor's wife, Holly. Holly, you'll be so happy to know that we've been recording these. Are you doing the greater dance?
Yeah, I'm doing the greater sign. It's like not a gang sign, it's a God sign.
You'll understand it in a minute. But we're doing these recordings back to back. And so now I officially have no lipstick on. So only Holly will be able to appreciate that because
it's like a bad thing?
My mom will say something about having no lips in the video.
I don't have any lipstick on either, so
That's a good thing. Let's keep it that way.
It all works out.
It all works out.
Working.
But a special hi to Holly Furtick. I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to be your friend, and you're so glad today that I'm not wearing lipstick. I know. So let's get down to business about this book, Greater. I'm so excited about this book. I want to encourage each of you to get it and read it, and not just read it and keep it for yourself, but read it and tell your friends about it. If you're married, tell your husband, tell your mom. Everybody, I think, should read this book. It's a message for any person that wants to pursue the life that God has for them, the greater vision that God has for their life. The subtitle I love so much. It's Dream Bigger, Start Smaller, Ignite God's Vision for Your Life. And Pastor, you have one of my favorite all-time sermon illustrations that you gave. I was so enthralled by the story because it spoke to me so deeply, but you have it in the book. But will you share with us the story about Elijah and his bike?
It's so funny how much you love that story. You're always asking me about it, and I'm like, man, this is one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And you make
Oh,
me
is that
talk
why
about
you
it.
hesitate?
I don't know. I think it's because it's like it's not even like a big story to me because this is what happens all the time. The story that Lisa's talking about, my son, he was 6 at the time. He just turned 7. He got a bike, and this shiny green bike, and came time to put it together. And I am so non-mechanical that it calls into question my masculinity, my self-confidence, my assurance of being a human being loved in the eyes of God. I can't fix anything. I've never hung a picture on our wall at home. It's beyond, you say you can't cook. I don't know how deep that goes, but my inability to fix things, it has deep roots, and it's really kind of funny, but it's one of those things where I went out to put Elijah's bike together for him. And he goes, I went to go look for a toolbox, and I pulled out this little toolbox that I had I put together when we first got married. And Elijah goes, "Oh, Daddy, you have one of those?" Because he's never seen me pull out a tool.
Right.
So I'm going, oh my goodness, I'm messing my kid up. Like my kid is absolutely gonna grow up dysfunctional, seeing a daddy doesn't even know has a toolbox. And go out with the bike, and it takes. Now remember, the bike, I think I said putting it together. It is already put together. It just needed the training wheels to come off. That's all I had to do.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, somebody else had put it together. I wasn't going to even try that. Yeah. So
all you're doing is taking
now
the
training wheels have to come off.
Okay.
So, like 20, 30 minutes later, what a normal man could have done in, 20, 30 seconds. I finally get the training wheels off after Elijah has stood there and coached me through it. He's actually feeling sorry for me. And we go out there to try to teach him to ride the bike, and I can't get him to ride the bike. In fact, I can't even get him to stay engaged in trying to ride the bike. Go in, it's a complete disaster. And I'm kind of having one of those moments where I'm like, this is just the beginning of all the stuff I'm not going to be able to teach my kids to do. I have 2 boys and 1 girl. And so I'm already imagining all the dad stuff they're going to miss out on because I'm not athletic and I'm not mechanical. And it wasn't long after that Elijah comes up to me on a Friday, and I promised him we'd work more on bike riding, and I'd teach him how to ride his bike, and feeling kind of self-conscious about that. And he walked up to me on a Friday and he goes, "Daddy, I need a favor." He didn't say that. He said something like, "Daddy, I need something. I want something." And I thought he was going to ask me about the bike. So I'm already feeling like, oh, please don't say anything about this bike. And instead he asked me, can you help me write a sermon? I want to preach a sermon at Graham's birthday party. Graham was about to turn 4 and have a sleepover, and he wanted to preach a sermon at Graham's birthday party. And so I was like, buddy, yes, that is something that I can do. I may never be able to teach you how to throw anything or fix anything or shoot anything, but I can teach you how to preach a sermon. And we wrote this sermon together. It was awesome. And I tell the whole story in the book. I'm not going to waste time here because I feel like I've hijacked the blog for the last couple of days. Everybody's like, get this guy off the blog. Let's go back to Lisa.
That's not true.
But it's this whole story of how I finally realized that in the very thing that I wasn't good at, I discovered God doing something greater in me as a dad, and that all of us have these things that we're not good at, and the insecurities that we feel about what we can and can't bring to the world and to our relationships or to our children. And that was one moment for me where God said, you know, you are the greatest dad to this 6-year-old. You're the greatest dad for this family. You're the greatest leader for this group of children. And just kind of the process of embracing the fact that God's greater purpose for me doesn't mean I have to be good at what people have preconceived notions that I should be good at, and kind of how that process plays out for me all the time. And I know everybody has a thing like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of men are good at shooting, teaching their kids how to shoot a buck or to catch, you know, to catch a certain type of fish, and they know exactly where to go and what to do. But they would never feel comfortable praying with their family. And I would say, hey, God can even use the stuff that you don't even think is that spiritual and use you to have a great impact on your kids, and finding the thing that God has called you specifically to do, and then walking in confidence that he'll use that in a greater way.
See, this is why I love this illustration so much, is because there are so many things that I don't feel like I'm good at. And especially, I mean, I'm the president of Proverbs 31 Ministry. I don't even know what a spindle and a distaff is. You know what I'm saying? And I do bring my food from afar, so I feel like that I have that verse nailed down.
From the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah. So, but I think I have this list, and maybe a lot of us do, of this is what good moms do. This is what good dads do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think the reason I like this story so much is it reminded me, just bring the best of who I am to my kids, and that makes me a good mom. And I think it just was a complete paradigm shift to me. And sometimes I think the most powerful lessons come from the simplest everyday examples. And that's why I love this book, Greater, because it was a complete paradigm shift as we walked through this book together and thought through these concepts together. I learned so much about how to bring the best of me, not just to my kids, but how to bring the best of me to life, and how God can use that in a profound way. I don't have to be profound. I don't have to be great. I just have to bring the best of me before the Lord, and he does something greater than what I ever could have imagined. And I love this book. I'm so excited, and I think a lot of people are going to love it too. Do you have any last closing thoughts that you want to share?
I hope that a lot of people have that experience reading the book. That's why I share that silly little story about the bike, because, you know, in the story of Elisha in the Bible, which is kind of the main through line, the thread of the book is the miracles that he worked and how God used him. But there's this one scene where he goes to a widow's house, and she's about to die, and he says, "What do you have in your house?" And she says, "Nothing there at all except a little oil." And what she had seemed so inconsequential to her. You know, that's a lot of you today. It's like you look at your bank account, or you look at your skill set, or you look at the free time that you have, and it looks like so little. But she brought that little bit of oil to Elisha, and God multiplied it, and she lived off of it the rest of her life. And I think that's a picture that all that God needs is all that I have. And when I bring him all that I have, not even just the best of me, but the best and the worst of me, then he takes the stuff that I thought was a weakness and uses it as strength to produce a greater impact and a greater purpose in and through my life. If people always focus on the exception, what I don't have, you know, she said, "I don't have anything except a little oil." Well, there was a miracle in that exception. And so what do you have? What can you do? I teach in the book how to stop thinking outside of the box, because that's the place where we just say, well, if I had, then I could. If then. When the kids are out of the house and I have more time, then I can. Or if I had kids, or if I didn't have
Right.
kids, or so. It's not about if then, because if never ends in our life, and then never comes. And so instead of that kind of outside of the box thinking, what I would do if I didn't have limitations, how do you embrace your limitations, both personally and in terms of circumstantially? How do you embrace the limitations in your life? And instead of thinking outside the box, think inside the box. And God will make your box bigger as you continue to pray greater prayers and just have greater faith. And I hope it sets a lot of people free, because a lot of people think that the people God uses in great ways are the people who have great resource or great confidence. And it's usually the people with a little bit of oil who will bring that little bit to God and let him make it something more.
That's so good. Thank you for that. And speaking of greater prayers, today we're going to link the challenge that we have, Pray Greater, for 4 days.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about that. So if you want to continue this journey, make sure that you sign up for Pray Greater Prayers for 4 days and get this book, Greater, and it will change your life. Pastor Stephen, it's been such an honor to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to share. Thank you guys for listening. You want to do the greater sign before we?
Sure.
I don't
even
one's
know
greater.
which way, right?
I don't either. Greater.
Greater.